For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Boss, seek recognition?
Speaker, pursuant to House Resolution 1423, I call up H.R. 9237, the Take Care of Americans Veterans Act, and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk report the title of the bill.
H.R. 9237, a bill to amend Titles 10 and 38 United States Code and other federal laws to improve benefits for veterans and the administration of the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Pursuant to House Resolution 1423, the amendment printed in Part B of House Report 119-749 is adopted, and the bill, as amended, is considered read. The bill as amended shall be debatable for 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Veteran Affairs or their respective designees. The gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Bost, and the gentleman from California, Mr. Takano, each will control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Bost.
Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and insert extenuous material in the record on H.R. 9237.
Without objection.
Speaker, I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong support of my bill, H.R. 9237, the Take Care of Americans Veterans Act. As a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, for me, this bill is personal. When a young man or a woman raises their right hand and agrees to serve this country, America makes a promise. That promise does not end when a service member is wounded. It is my goal and the goal of my friend, Senator Jerry Moran, to deliver on that promise. This bill would be one of the most comprehensive veterans packages considered by Congress in a decade. This bill includes more than 60 bipartisan provisions that would improve health care, benefits, operations, and accountability across the VA. Speaker, I would like to tell you more about some of the important provisions. One is the Major Richard Starr Act. For decades, medically retired combat-injured veterans have had their military retirement offset dollar for dollar by their VA disability. While some disabled veterans who served 20 years receive both are tens of thousands of combat-injured veterans who currently do not. Many combat-injured veterans would have served longer if their injuries had not taken the opportunity for them. H.R. 9237 would help end that injustice. It would end the offset for combat-injured veterans, allowing them to receive both benefits up to and what a 20-year retiree with the same disability would receive. Members on both sides of the aisle and veteran service organizations support this and have for years. But a press release, a handshake, and a discharge petition does not end the wounded warrior tax. This bill will. The Love Lives On Act is another important provision included in this bill. Currently, surviving spouses lose their benefit if they remarry before age 55. But those benefits were earned by their spouses, sacrificing for this country. The Love Lives On Act would allow surviving spouses to remarry at any age. Another important provision in this bill is the Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Veterans Benefit Expansion Act. This bill provides a long-awaited increase to catastrophically disabled veterans and surviving spouses. Eric was 25 years old when the IED left him with a fractured spine and a traumatic brain injury. H.R. 9237 would increase his benefit for catastrophic disabled veterans like Eric by $10,000 a year. It would also increase benefits for surviving spouses. These American families have not seen a meaningful increase in decades. Speaker, this bill also includes the Veterans Access Act. Veterans should be able to access health care in their own communities. Too many veterans still facing delays, confusion, and barriers when trying to use VA community care. This bill would also improve the mental health care and community-based suicide prevention. A veteran's health care should be driven by the veteran's needs, not by government control. H.R. 9237 would improve education benefits, vocational training, to help veterans transition into civilian life. It would modernize the VA's claim and appeals process so veterans have a system that works for them. It would streamline the way VA handles construction, leasing, contracting, IT, and finances. The Take Care of American Veterans Act would expand benefits, push VA to do better. Speaker, I also want to address how this bill is funded, as I have heard a lot of misinformation about this point. H.R. 9237 would codify VA's own pending regulation on how to evaluate sleep apnea and tinnitus effect on a veteran's workplace earnings. This regulation was proposed by the Biden-era VA in 2022, created by a VA team of doctors and researchers. It was part of VA's efforts to modernize its disability rating schedule created in the 1940s. President Biden's Undersecretary for Benefits, Josh Jacobs, testified in favor of these changes at his confirmation hearing. Earlier this year, VA's Executive Director of Compensation confirmed plans to finalize these changes this year. These are not new ideas, and there is nothing unprecedented about this. This bill would not eliminate disability ratings for sleep apnea or tinnitus. It would not automatically, in any veteran's current disability rating, be reduced. Future veterans with sleep apnea will still get treatment through the VA health care. But if a CPAP eliminates your symptoms, VA would compensate you less. Currently, the amount of compensation for sleep apnea is often more than the amount that a veteran receives if they lose a limb. This change just is common sense. It's why VA has worked hard to propose these changes like these that reflect modern medicine. For tinnitus, VA has found it's best understood as a symptom of another condition, such as hearing loss or TBI. Under the proposed change, tinnitus would still be rated as part of another underlying condition. This is not about denying these conditions exist. So let's be clear. This is not cutting benefits. No one will lose their benefits that are receiving them. It is about making sure VA rating schedule follows modern science and using those savings to fund the expansion of benefits and other VA programs. Mr. Speaker, if we don't pass H.R. 9237 today, VA can make these rating changes as planned, but the savings would go back to one place, big government. I want those savings instead to go to the pockets and the benefits for millions of veterans and their family. Speaker, as a United States Marine veteran, you can bet your bottom dollar that I believe that this bill would not harm a single veteran, and I would not bring it forward to this floor if I thought it would. Veterans do not need a bill that makes members feel good for a day and then dies in the Senate. They need legislation that can pass. Speaker, veterans groups agree. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter from 20 different veterans organizations in support of this legislation.
Without objection.
Veterans groups from the American Legion to the Wounded Warrior Project support this bill. Survivor groups like the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors support this bill. Caregivers organizations like the Elizabeth Dole Foundation support this bill. They all want this bill to pass. Chairman Moran and I have worked for months to try to enact a law that will help the greatest number of veterans. I believe we have offered that kind of package today. I want to take a moment to share what we've heard directly from veterans. Mission Roll Call, a national nonpartisan organization dedicated to serving veterans and their families, recently conducted a survey on my bill. They found 71% of veterans support the bill. I think that's a clear choice. Speaker, as our nation observes its 250th birthday, H.R. 9237 asks a simple question. Do we have veterans back? Do we have the back of fellow Americans who raise their right hand to serve in defense of this great country? The Gold Star families who carry the cost of their loved one's sacrifice. Caregivers who every single day care for disabled veteran family member. For me, the answer will always be yes, both during service and after. I urge all of my colleagues to support the Take Care of American Vets Act, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to H.R. 9237. It's a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C., but Republicans are casting a dark cloud over all of us, and especially over America's veterans. We have before us today a bill that, despite its name, does the exact opposite of taking care of veterans. It enshrines into law the largest cut to veterans' benefits ever in the history of this nation. The premise of this bill is that some veterans must be made worse off in order to make others better off. Mr. Speaker, I reject that premise. I reject this bill, and I encourage others to do the same. Here's the core issue. The majority treats veterans as a zero-sum game. Cut disability pay for some to find benefits for others. That's not governing. That's rationing suffering among our nation's heroes. With this bill, the majority would, for the first time ever, have Congress interfere in the scientific process that determines veterans' disability ratings, overriding the expertise of medical professionals at the Department of Veterans Affairs. And Chairman Bost, I respect that you are a military veteran, but you, sir, are not a medical professional. The majority, for the first time ever, would have us cut tens of billions of dollars from veterans' disability compensation to pay for the Department of Defense obligations. This is absolutely unconscionable. Consider the math. Republicans are discussing nearly $70 billion in new Pentagon spending without offsets. They vote enthusiastically for $1.5 trillion in annual defense budgets. Yet, they insist on paying for veterans' priorities by cutting benefits with the two most common service-connected conditions. Apparently, there's no problem sending veterans the bill for the wars that Congress funds. A massive 600-page bill, crafted behind closed doors and brought to the floor without careful consideration, packed with harmful provisions designed to boost a few vulnerable members' electoral prospects. For those reasons and many, many more, I cannot in good conscience support this legislation. But more important than my opposition is the opposition of the very people whom the majority claims to help, veterans themselves. Over 30 veterans service organizations and advocates oppose this legislation, including many of the largest, like the veterans of foreign wars, disabled American veterans, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans of America, and numerous others. They know that reaching into the pockets of one set of veterans to provide for another is morally wrong. Creating tiers of veterans based on their period of service, treating tomorrow's veterans worse than today's, is morally wrong. They will not stand for it, and neither should we. In addition to the numerous VSOs and over 24 labor unions opposing this bill, including the Union Veterans Council, American Federation of Government Employees, and AFL-CIO, so do professional associations like the American Psychological Association and the Nurses Organization of VA. They all recognize the devastating effect this legislation will have on VA's workforce and their ability to deliver high-quality care. Now, even the Mortgage Bankers Association has expressed opposition to this bill. The majority has decided that during a housing affordability crisis, it makes sense to raise costs on struggling veteran homeowners who are desperately trying to avoid foreclosure. This package contains multiple harmful provisions. It would accelerate the privatization of veterans' health care, creating new grant programs for private providers that divert resources from VA mental health and PTSD programs and steer veterans into more expensive community-based care, even where VA services remain available, and strip VA psychologists of collective bargaining rights. This bill also contains numerous sections opposed by key stakeholders like Student Veterans of America, Veterans Education Success, and the American Federation of Teachers that would direct GI Bill funding toward low-quality, for-profit, unaccredited online programs. This bill contains provisions that would allow GI benefits to be used for online welding courses. Can you believe it? Explain to me how you can teach someone online how to weld. Inexplicably, H.R. 9237 even includes a $500 million IT slush fund that VA will use to enrich contractors and reward the president's cronies. And the list goes on and on. We are going to hear arguments from the majority today about all the good things this bill attempts to do. If we exist in a vacuum, I would say that I agree. There are parts of this bill with broad bipartisan support. Long overdue increases to dependency and indemnity compensation, and especially a special monthly compensation, for example. But we do not exist in isolation here, and we must take the bill as the total sum of its parts, especially since the majority has blocked amendments to this bill, as they have done so often in this Congress. And regrettably, we will also hear the chairman say that cutting veterans' benefits is the only way that we can get them done. This is patently false, and the chairman knows it. Everyone in this chamber knows it, and everyone in America knows it as well. There are any number of other places we can find money for these priorities. We don't lack money around here. What is in short supply is, at least on the other side of the aisle, is the political will to use some of it on behalf of America's veterans. $1.5 trillion for the Department of Defense, $70 billion for the Department of Homeland Security, and hundreds of millions of dollars for permanent tax cuts for the wealthy, none of it offset, all of which the chairman voted for enthusiastically. Just 10 days of President Trump's folly in Iran would pay for 10 years of benefits under the Major Richard Starr Act. Let me say that again. Just 10 days of President Trump's folly in Iran would pay for 10 years of benefits under the Major Richard Starr Act. So the question we have before us today is this: why do you insist on offsets now? Why only now, when we are trying to do work on behalf of our nation's veterans, do you care about the deficit? Why are Republicans holding veterans' priorities hostage, including the overwhelming top priority of veterans, the Major Richard Starr Act, in exchange for multi-billion-dollar cuts to veterans' benefits? That's a mystery to me. And it's a question that Chairman Boss and Republicans will struggle to answer as well. I want to point to this chart here. Mr. Speaker, let me finish with a quote from just one veteran in opposition to this legislation. And I quote, "I am a disabled Michigan veteran and lifelong conservative. Please pass the Major Richard Starr Act as a standalone bill. We do not support the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, H.R. 9237, and we will never elect representatives who want to cut veterans' benefits. How could Republicans propose this?" End quote. Now, I couldn't have said it any better. And there are thousands more comments just like this, as you can see here. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserved. Members are reminded to direct their remarks towards the chair. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, the ranking member knows VA has an obligation to update disability conditions based on the latest science and medicine. And in his opening, he said that I am not a doctor. He's right. I'm a Marine. I'm a truck driver. And somehow I've been blessed to serve our veterans as a chairman of the committee. He's not a doctor either. Likewise, he's been blessed by his community to be here. But what I do want to do is, for the record, the proposed changes for sleep apnea and tendinitis will not develop, they aren't developed by Congress. They were developed by VA physicians. They are doctors, medical experts, doctors, and researchers under the Biden administration as part of the ongoing disability rating modernization efforts. In testimony before the House Veterans Affairs Committee in January of 2026, VA officials stated that the department intended to continue moving forward with the respiratory ear-body system rulemaking and anticipating completing those efforts by the end of year 2026. That testimony was not given by career staff acting alone. In fact, just this morning, VA officials confirmed that they are planning to move forward with the proposed rule on sleep apnea and tendinitis. The testimony represents the official position of the department at the time it was delivered to Congress. So the question before us is not whether Congress created these proposed changes. We did not. VA's announcement makes their intention clear. This is moving forward regardless, but Ranking Member Takano would rather play politics. The question is whether the savings associated with the political deployment by the VA and changes by the VA should remain in their control and the bureaucrats' control, or do we make it through our Article 1 power to reinvest into our veterans and their families? H.R. 9237 chooses veterans. Speaker, I would ask unanimous consent. The testimony of both Josh Jacobs, Biden Undersecretary of Benefits, and Nina Tan, Trump's Executive Director of Compensation Service, be entered into the record.
Without objection.
With that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to yield 3 minutes to the gentleman and a good friend from Ohio's 2nd District, Representative Taylor.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank Chairman Boss for yielding me the time. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. America's veterans represent the best our country have to offer, and it is time for Congress to deliver meaningful reforms to our veterans benefit programs that improve the quality of life for America's warfighters. That's why I'm proud to be an original co-sponsor of the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, which will modernize and enhance the delivery of VA benefits for veterans across our country. As we continue to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, it is important that we realize that freedom is not free, and we wouldn't have this amazing country without the sacrifices of countless service members and their families. Now is the time to reaffirm Congress's support of our veteran community and put veterans first by passing this legislation. I'm particularly proud that this legislation includes the expansion of GI Bill benefits, increases benefits for severely disabled veterans and their families, and ends the wounded veterans tax thanks to the inclusion of the Major Richard Starr Act. These reforms are long overdue, and I applaud Chairman Bost and the work of the House Veterans Affairs Committee for their role in crafting this legislation. This bill upholds the promise we made to our nation's veterans that upon completion of their service, we would take care of them and their families. It is our duty as temporary caretakers of our republic to fight for those who keep us safe, and veterans are at the top of that list. On behalf of Southern Ohio, I want to thank all our veterans and their families for the countless sacrifices they have made to keep our nation safe. This vote is for them. Mr. Speaker, I urge all my colleagues to support this bill, and I yield back my time.
Reserve.
The gentleman in reserves, the gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the chairman has said several times that disability ratings changes in this bill that this bill makes are coming anyway. That's simply not true. He's counting on a golden egg that the VA has simply not laid yet. The first Trump administration floated changes to conditions like sleep apnea and tinnitus beginning in 2019. And then 4 years ago, when VA sought public comment on a notice of proposed rulemaking, the 2022 changes that during the Biden administration, VSOs and many members of this body spoke loudly and clearly and unanimously in opposition to them. And what he doesn't mention is that the Biden administration walked away from those proposed rule changes. VA listened to those voices in 2022. And as a result, the proposed rule has been on a shelf since then. Just a few short weeks ago, VA clarified that it is not planning to take any action on this proposed rule. That was from a VA spokesperson in public, and so there's nothing inevitable about these rules changes which are going to bring about the golden egg of savings, the $57 billion that the chairman is counting on in order to pay for this bill. The savings that will come from cuts to veterans' disability benefits. A tweet that he's referring to this morning, quoting their tweet, quoting an unnamed source, is not the same as rulemaking. This is simply the majority trying to find any excuse possible to cut benefits they view as overly generous, which has long been their goal. And that's why Americans for Prosperity has endorsed this bill. The architects of Project 2025 have been desperate to cut benefits for years, and they've been trying to find a way to touch veterans' benefits. I'm not going to let them do that. And even showing up at the majority's press conference to cheer on their efforts just a few short days ago, and now they finally have a majority who's willing to bow to their demands to harm veterans. Now, my majority counterparts have picked an interesting time to care about science again. Their remarks today attempt to demonstrate that they are working to align themselves with the best science, to update and modernize the disability ratings schedule. Yet my majority colleagues fail to see the irony in legislating away veterans' benefits before VA completes a thorough review of the best science. They are substituting their own judgment for that of VA clinicians and researchers who actually understand the medical evidence related to these disabilities. If this bill is passed, the expertise of VA and the years of work that goes into clinical determinations become moot. If you don't believe me, just listen to what one of VA's top doctors, former VA Secretary and Undersecretary of Health David Shulkin, stated regarding this bill's proposed changes to disability ratings. And I quote, "Any modernization of the VA schedule for rating disabilities should be instead conducted through an independent, evidence-based medical review led by the Department of Veterans Affairs with opportunities for public comment and congressional oversight. And any savings resulting from that process should be reinvested on improving disability evaluations, rehabilitation services, and veterans health care, not used to finance unrelated provisions of the legislation. If my colleagues are suddenly interested in following that science, they should let the experts continue their work independently without the political pressure that passage of this bill will inevitably create. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to my good friend, Representative Underwood. She's a former member of this committee who currently serves on the House Appropriations Committee. The gentlewoman from Illinois, Ms. Underwood.
The gentlewoman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of my bill, the Lactation Spaces for Veteran Moms Act. Serving veterans is one of the greatest privileges we have as members of Congress. And we must do everything that we can to ensure not only that they receive the benefits that they have earned through their service and sacrifice, but also that they can access those benefits with dignity that they deserve. That's why I'm so proud to lead the bipartisan Lactation Spaces for Veteran Moms Act with Congresswoman Ashley Hinson. As a nurse, I have seen firsthand the benefits of breastfeeding for moms and babies. My bill will ensure that every VA medical center contains a clean, private space specifically designed for nursing and pumping. Our veterans and their families have given so much in service to our country, and they deserve the same level of support and respect when they seek care. For VA medical centers to meet the needs of young families, caregivers, and our hard-working VA employees, they need to be equipped with proper facilities. In the VA medical centers that lack a dedicated lactation space, moms are forced to use unsanitary spaces like bathrooms or struggle to find a private corner. That is unacceptable. Our veterans deserve better. That's why we must pass the Lactation Spaces for Veteran Moms Act now. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlelady yields.
I reserve, Mr.
The gentleman yields.
Mr.
Reserved. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't think that the ranking member is caught up on current events. It just recently, just to confirm what we already knew, the VA officials confirmed that they are moving ahead with the changes on tinnitus, sleep apnea, and disability benefits. VA has made it no move to withdraw the sleep apnea and or those from the changes that will then save the money that then the bureaucrats will control. So as we're moving forward, the ranking member can keep saying things that aren't true, or you can admit this is an issue and that's where we're coming up with the revenue. That being said, I would like at this time, let me tell you that the next person I want to yield time to has worked on the Major Richard Starr Act for years, as did his father before him. And with that, I want to make sure that we give 2 minutes to Representative Bill Arrakis from Florida's 12th District.
Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the chairman for your leadership. And thank you for this great package that will support our veterans. I rise today in support, strong support, of the Taking Care of America's Veterans Act. First and foremost, this legislation delivers long overdue justice by including key provisions of my Richard Starr Act. I promised Richard Starr that we would get this done, and we're in the process of doing it. And again, on behalf of our true American heroes. So, which I remain committed to achieving full concurrent receipt. So we're going to still get anything that's not included in this bill, we're going to pursue for the benefit of our veterans. This package takes a major step forward by providing immediate relief to nearly 60,000 combat-injured veterans, Mr. Speaker. For far too long, medically retired service members wounded in combat have been forced to forfeit a portion of the retirement pay they earned simply because they also receive VA disability compensation, and that's wrong. That's the so-called wounded veterans tax, and it's fundamentally unjust. These men and women sacrifice their health in defense of our nation. They earn both benefits, and they deserve to receive both. This legislation also strengthens veterans' access to health care by expanding choice, improves the VA claims and appeals process, and increases support for catastrophically disabled veterans, caregivers, and surviving spouses. We've been working on these issues for many years, Mr. Speaker, and it looks like it's going to come to fruition. So we appreciate it so very much, and I want to thank the chairman for his leadership. It enhances mental health services, expands care in rural communities, improves transition assistance for service members entering civilian life, and modernizes VA facilities to better serve future generations. Most importantly, this bill honors the legacy of Major Richard Starr, who fought tirelessly to correct this injustice before his passing. His determination has brought us to this moment, and today we have the opportunity to continue that fight on behalf of thousands of deserving veterans. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to insert into the record a coalition letter from 10 veteran service organizations, a resolution from the American Legion Department of Texas, a statement from the American Legion Trujillo Sheets Post 28 in Durango, Colorado, and emails from Minnesota Blue Earth Post 89 of the American Legion and American Legion Post 58 in Belleville, Illinois, all in opposition to this bill.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, the chairman has made the claim that VA is going to move forward with taking away sleep apnea and tinnitus as conditions that veterans may claim disability ratings for. I would like to ask the chairman, who at VA has made that commitment? He has tweeted out this morning that this is the case. I yield to him 15 seconds to tell me the name of the person at VA who has confirmed that VA is moving forward with these changes to disability ratings.
From the open statement that came out of the VA from the leadership at VA, and that was sent out this morning under the approval of the secretary.
So you are saying that a secretary who backed away from changes to disability ratings in terms of medication, the intent was to say that if veterans take medication or get some sort of treatment, that if their conditions improve, that they would then have, that their disability ratings could then be lowered. He backed away from that after immense protest and opposition from veterans and veterans organizations. You're telling me this very same secretary is telling you that he's moving forward with a $57 billion cut to disability disability ratings. I yield for an answer.
That is exactly the position of the VA and their administration. That was said this morning. It was sent out this morning. It is now being reported in the news.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Speaker. Reclaiming my time.
California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the time is mine. Reclaiming my time.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, there's been no public statement by the Secretary. There's been no named official from VA today. I defy the chairman to produce such a name. He's making a claim. But again, I will contend that they're counting on a golden egg in disability cuts, savings on the backs of veterans that has not been laid yet. And I contend will not be. At this time, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to my good friend, a veteran of the U.S. Navy, a former member of this committee who serves now on the House Armed Services Committee and the House Transportation Committee, Representative DeLuzio from the state of Pennsylvania.
The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from California. I rise in opposition to this bill, and I rise in opposition to any effort to cut veterans' benefits. And let's be clear, this bill raises the cost of the VA home loan program during a housing crisis, and this program and this bill cuts VA benefits for current veterans who don't have them and for troops downrange right now for two of the most common conditions they may experience, sleep apnea and tinnitus. This bill sells off more VA and veterans care to the private sector. It continues the privatization push of the Trump administration and so many congressional Republicans. And I am not going to take a lecture on fiscal responsibility or accept this argument from the Republicans and the Trump administration that you have to fund veterans programs by cutting care or benefits for other veterans. The same people who have funded an Iran war at the tune of billions and billions of dollars, the same people who added nearly $5 trillion to the debt through their One Big Beautiful Bill, which, by the way, has a new name now, I guess. We've lost track of that. That bill, by the way, would also add $19 trillion over 30 years. So there's no problem on the Republican side with adding to the debt when it comes time to give tax breaks and tax giveaways to the ultra-rich and to corporations. But when it comes time to care for veterans, now they're counting pennies. And let's be crystal clear about what this bill does. It says to troops downrange right now who are in harm's way that they have to have worse benefits than veterans have today to pay for benefits and care that other veterans have earned. That's ridiculous. It's why groups like the VFW and the IAVA and others oppose this bill. It's why I think Democrats and Republicans should oppose this bill on the floor today. For this reason and many others, at the appropriate time, I'll offer a motion to recommit this bill back to committee. If the House rules permitted, I would have offered the motion with an important amendment to this bill. The amendment would change the offsets used in the bill. Instead of reducing the VA home loan benefit and cutting disability benefits for sleep apnea and tinnitus, it takes unobligated, appropriated but not committed funding given to the DoD and the One Big Beautiful Bill and uses it at the pay for. I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the text of this amendment.
Gentleman's time has expired.
15 more seconds.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the text of this amendment, and I hope my colleagues would join me in voting for the motion to recommit. Mr. Speaker, with that, I'll yield back.
Without objection.
I reserve, Mr.
The
Speaker.
gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I would like to yield 2 minutes to my good friend, the gentleman from Michigan's 7th District, Mr. Barrett.
The gentleman from Michigan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise today in support of the Take Care of Americans Veterans Act. This package includes more than 60 bipartisan bills that modernize, enhance, and reform the delivery of health care and priorities, including the Assist Act and Cruise Act, which will help disabled veterans and businesses make necessary and timely modifications to vehicles, ensuring that veterans have accessibility to move about. The Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Veterans Benefits Expansion Act to finally deliver the first notable increase in over 30 years to our most severely disabled veterans and our Gold Star families who have sacrificed so much. My Clear Communication for Veterans Claims Act and my Delivering Digitally to our Veterans Act, which will ensure that every veteran can understand the messages and communications they receive from the VA in a simplified manner, and even opt in to get them electronically. My Veterans Community Care Scheduling Improvement Act, which will make it easier for veterans to schedule medical appointments closer to home and easier to access. The Acquisition Reform and Cost Assessment Act to strengthen oversight of VA acquisition with the ginormous contracts that they often enter into. And finally, my Home Affordability for Guard and Reserve Act to empower more of our National Guard and Reservists to take advantage of the VA Home Loan Program. Today, they would wait 6 years to qualify for the VA Home Loan Program, and under this bill, they will qualify once they return home from their training and are in good standing with their unit. I've worked hard on these bills for nearly 2 years, and they, and more than 50 other bipartisan bills just like them, are all major wins that will improve the lives of our nation's heroes. Thank you to Chairman Bost, and I look forward to the passage of this bill. And I urge my colleagues to vote yes, and I yield back.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, there's overwhelming opposition to cutting veteran disability benefits to offset the cost of this bill. Major VSOs like the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Disabled American Veterans, and Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, along with numerous others, all oppose this bill due to the offset. But more importantly, veterans themselves are overwhelmingly opposed as well. Check out any online veteran forum, and you will find thousands of comments from both veterans and active duty service members decrying these proposed cuts. Veterans of all eras agree that their receipt of benefits should not be predicated on cuts to benefits for another generation of veterans. It's our job to listen to them. There are other ways to fund this bill's provisions. We just need to have the political courage to stand up and do what is right for our veterans. And at this time, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to my good friend who serves on the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology and the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, Representative Menifee from the state of Texas.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to oppose H.R. 9237, which, if we are being clear, cuts veterans' benefits. The presidents and my colleagues on the Republican side in Congress have no problem sending our men and women off to war. But the real measure of a nation is not just how it treats their service persons when they're in active duty. It's how it treats them when they're no longer dodging the bombs, the bullets, and the storms at sea, when they're no longer serving in war. As a Congress, we have to do right by our veterans, and this bill simply does not do it. $57 billion in cuts for disability benefits for veterans. It raises fees $4 billion on veteran borrowers, home loan refinancing fees. I'm the son of 2 veterans, and we would have never purchased our first home when I was in high school were it not for a VA home assistance loan. And that's the same not just for me, but for so many folks across the 18th Congressional District of Texas. I keep hearing my colleagues on the other side of the aisle say that we have to find money to offset to be able to pay for some of the other benefits in this bill. But if we're pinching pennies, let's tell the president to end his war in Iran, which has cost taxpayers billions and billions of dollars. It's time for this Congress to do right by our veterans. I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to vote against H.R. 9237. I yield back.
I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Pennsylvania, 9th District, Representative Mauser.
The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you very much for your leadership, Chairman Bost. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. Our veterans answered the call to serve, sacrificed on behalf of this country, and defended the freedoms every American enjoys. They have earned a Department of Veterans Affairs that delivers the care, benefits, and support that they were promised without unnecessary delays of bureaucratic obstacles. And that includes community care, Mr. Speaker. That's one of the aversions and obstacles and reasons for opposition, because they're pretty much against community care initiatives. This bipartisan package brings together more than 60 common sense proposals that truly make this happen. And by the way, it's supported by the American Legion, Military Officers Association, Wounded Warriors, Elizabeth Dole Foundation, Korean War veterans, Vietnam veterans, AMVETS, Gold Star spouses, and the list goes on. Importantly, very importantly, it includes the Major Richard Starr Act. Voting against this bill is voting against the Major Richard Starr Act, which ends the unfair wounded veterans tax for eligible combat injured retirees. These veterans were medically retired because their service was cut short by injuries sustained defending our country. They should not be forced to give up a portion of their military retirement pay simply because they also receive VA disability compensation. This bill corrects that injustice. It also strengthens access to community care, as mentioned, mental health treatment. It allows military widows to remarry and maintain their benefits, cuts through the VA red tape, strengthens claims appeals process. This is not about cutting of benefits. It's about advancing services with some modernization initiatives as well. We owe our veterans more than the words of gratitude. We owe them this action. We owe them the Take Care of Americans Veterans Act. And I thank again the chairman. I yield back.
Reserve. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to point out that yesterday House Republicans released a $95 billion supplemental for the reconciliation bill they want to bring forward next week for Pentagon spending, farm assistance, and intelligence operations, all without offsets. We're talking $95 billion, none of them with an offset. Yet, we are asking our veterans to pay for this bill, pay for the bill. Only in the case of veterans is the chairman looking for an offset. I defy the chairman to tell me whether he will ask for an offset for the $95 billion supplemental that goes to Pentagon spending, farm assistance, intelligence operations. I eagerly wait to hear his answer. And, Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I would like to yield to my good friend, Representative King Hines, for 2 minutes.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise before you today to lend my voice in strong support of H.R. 9237, the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. This comprehensive package is designed to address the critical needs of our nation's veterans. The legislation represents a meaningful step forward, closing resource gaps that have persisted for far too long. Amongst its provision are vital improvements for veterans affected by traumatic brain injuries, expanded survivor benefits, and increased access to medical care in the U.S. territories and the freely associated states. I'm proud to note that 2 bills I authored are included in this package. First, the Territorial Response and Access to Veterans Essential Life Care, or TRAVEL Act. This provision, which already passed in the House, establishes a VA program enabling physicians to travel to the U.S. territories and deliver essential medical care directly to veterans. The second bill, the U.S. Vets of the Freely Associated States Act, empowers the VA to provide telehealth services and mail prescriptions to veterans residing in the Republic of the Marshall Islands, the Federated States of Micronesia, and Palau. These Pacific Island countries are among our closest allies whose citizens serve in our military at exceptionally high rates, yet they lack access to basic care and benefits. This legislation will help remedy that inequity. The Take Care of America's Veterans Act is not just important, it is urgent. Our veterans deserve the best we can offer, and this package delivers on that promise. I want to thank Chairman Bowles for his leadership and dedication to veterans everywhere. I urge my colleagues to join me in supporting the passage of H.R. 9237. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.
Reserve.
Gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I continue to ask the chairman, in advance of a $95 billion supplemental for Pentagon spending, farm assistance, and intelligence operation, none of this are the Republicans seeking an offset. Only the chairman, in this particular case, when it comes to our veterans, is demanding that veterans pay for veterans. We could pass this bill without having to ask veterans to pay for veterans. Actually, for disabled veterans to pay for veterans. So I ask the chairman again, does he plan to seek an offset or demand an offset for the $95 billion supplemental for Pentagon spending, farm assistance, and intelligence operations, none of which are the Republicans intending to pay for, but their rules and their policy is to make veterans pay for veterans. And I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I have no more speakers, and I'm ready to close, and I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, in listening to the chairman today and at the Rules Committee several weeks ago, it's clear to me that he's been picking his words very carefully. He's been very specific that this bill, the so-called Take Care of America's Veterans Act, would not impair current veterans. And I'm not sure if the chairman fully understands how disability benefits, how the system works, but if he truly believes what he's saying, or if he truly believes what he's saying. But what he is saying isn't even remotely the full truth. The bill can and will lead to cuts for those who already have service-connected disability ratings for sleep apnea and tinnitus. This is because anytime a veteran applies for a rating increase or applies for a new rating for some other condition, VA can and does review previous ratings, sometimes even lowering them. So it's foolish to think that VA won't apply the new rules for sleep apnea and tinnitus when veterans have their ratings reviewed. Further, his remarks fail to take into consideration two other critically important populations here. First, these cuts would make service members currently serving who may be incurring these injuries right now ineligible to receive compensation for service-connected tinnitus or sleep apnea. So those service members President Trump keeps sending into harm's way in this foolish war with Iran would be ineligible for these benefits. That should give us all pause. And let me just say, a vote yes on this bill is a message that we're sending to the service members currently serving in and around the waters of Iran and the Straits of Hormuz, and our service members that are stationed at bases who've already faced incoming missile fire and subjected to the blasts that have surely affected their eardrums. We're saying to them that they will not be able to apply to make claims based on tinnitus, much less sleep apnea. That is the message a yes vote will send to them. That is why I say vote no. In addition, the chairman and his colleagues failed to acknowledge that the existing veterans who have yet to file a claim for tinnitus or sleep apnea, I'm talking about a group of people, not of the current service members, but veterans who've yet to apply for a rating. These two groups of veterans, that is, current service members and veterans who've yet to file, will be treated worse than those that came before them. This contract will unilaterally be changed on them and for the worse. How my Republican colleagues are okay with treating two veterans with the same exact condition differently is beyond me. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, this is the largest cut to veterans' disability benefits in history, and being used to pay for this bill. When you are not demanding offsets for $95 billion next week, I don't know how you all can live with yourselves. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm ready to close, and I reserve.
Does the gentleman from California yield or reserve?
I reserve.
The gentleman from California reserves. The gentleman from Illinois
I'm ready
is
to
recognized.
close, and I reserve.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
Well, Mr. Speaker, throughout this process, I've tried to stay up to date on what veterans are saying online about the so-called Take Care of America's Veterans Act. I found the discussions to be enlightening. And before my colleagues say I've cherry-picked those comments, I urge them to pull out their phones and take a look at the comment sections on any social media post discussing this bill. It will become clear to you that opposition to this legislation is coming from veterans on both sides of the aisle. And let's take a look. I quote, I'm quoting from the comments, "This creates two tiers of veterans," end quote. Quote, "Veterans should not have to take a reduced amount to provide savings to pay for fellow veterans. The U.S. government should honor their commitment to us," end quote. Quote, "This is a false choice. Find the funds without making veterans literally pay the cost," end quote. Quote, "If they truly cared, they wouldn't rob all veterans to pay for this, as there are plenty of other ways to fund this act," end quote. Quote, "Pitting veterans against veterans," end quote. Quote, "You taught us to take care of each other. This bill contradicts that," end quote. There are thousands more just like this from veterans in each of our districts telling us to vote no on this bad bill. And if my colleagues won't listen to my concerns here, I urge them to listen to the veterans, dependents, caregivers, survivors, and advocates in their districts. We cannot today, tomorrow, or ever balance budgets on the backs of veterans who have already sacrificed so much for their country. Instead, we must honor the contract we made with our nation's veterans and reject the false choice Chairman Boss has foisted upon us. I join the millions of veterans across the country who vehemently oppose H.R. 9237, the Take Care of America's Veterans Act, and urge everyone to do the same. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to respond to a few claims that the veterans do not want this package. It's just not true. The ranking member can disagree on the bill. He can disagree on the offset. He can argue that they would have written the package differently. But I do not think it is accurate to suggest that veteran community as a whole somehow united against this legislative package. The package has support for a wide range of organizations, including the American Legion, the Veterans of America, Vietnam Veterans of America, Mission Roll Call, Wounded Warriors Project, Military Officers Association of America, AMVETS, Concerned Veterans of America, Tragic Assistance Program for Survivors, Gold Star Spouses of America, the Veterans Survivors Coalition, the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Veterans Justice Alliance, the National Association of the State Approving Agencies, the ALS Association, Elizabeth Dole Foundation, Air Force Sergeants Association, American Optical Association, Avalon Alliance Action, Career Education Colleges and Universities, Commissioned Officers Association, the USPHS, Canines for Warriors, Korean War Veterans Association, Military Chaplains Association, National Defense Committee, National Military Families Association, USCG, Chief Petty Officers Association, Americans for Prosperity, National Federal Development Association, National Taxpayers Union, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Those organizations represent veterans, survivors, Gold Star families, wounded veterans, military families associated with professionals who work directly with the people. This bill would help. When the ranking member claims that veterans do not want this package, that ignores millions of voices in the veterans community who are asking Congress to act. This bill includes long-standing priorities for veterans. And importantly, it does so in a way that is paid for and capable of actually moving from here to the Senate and to the President's desk. At some point, we have to decide whether we're going to keep talking about these promises or actually move a package that can become law. I believe that the package is a serious response to step forward and reject the idea that veterans do not want this Congress to act on this bill. Also, whether they want to admit it or not, the problem was with most of these organizations that were in opposition is because they didn't want the offset. That offset, as I've told you this morning, as the VA has said exactly what we said, they are going to implement it. Now, the question for my colleagues is very simple. Do you want to use your Article 1 power and make decisions, as we should in Congress, to direct that money to our veterans and where they need it? We have sat and looked at these over and over and again. We've also passed some of these bills and sent them over to the Senate to die because they don't have an offset. You know what? This isn't an easy game, and it's not a game. If you don't believe this Marine is serious about helping veterans, and I'm telling you, I took a lot of crap this week, and I can tell you this, I will stand and always stand for my veterans. I'm the son of a veteran. I'm a grandson of a veteran. I'm a nephew of a veteran. I'm the father of a veteran, and I'm a grandfather of 2 of them. Ladies and gentlemen, I've heard a lot this week, and I'm going to tell you, we've worked hard and did the best we can to put the best bill forward. It's the best bill that's been around in decades. And do you want the bureaucrats to make the decision and not support those areas where we are trying to help our veterans? You can love it, you can hate it, but I'm telling you, this is the best thing we can do for veterans right now. I would encourage all of my colleagues to support this legislation, and with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. All time for debate has now expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 1423, the previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to amend Titles 10 and 38 United States Code and other federal laws to improve benefits for veterans and the administration of the Department of Veterans Affairs.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. DeLuzio of Pennsylvania moves to recommit the bill H.R. 9237 to the Committee on Veterans Affairs.
Pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 19, the previous question is ordered on the motion to recommit. The question is on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The motion is not agreed to.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for the yeas and nays.
For what? The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. Proceedings will resume on questions previously postponed. Votes will be taken in the following order: the motion to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 5362 if ordered, the motion to recommit H.R. 9237, and passage of H.R. 9237 if ordered. The first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, remaining electronic votes will be conducted as 5-minute votes. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the question on suspending the rules and passing H.R. 5362, which the clerk will report by title.
H.R. 5362, a bill to name the Department of Veterans Affairs Multi-Specialty Clinic in Marietta, Georgia, as the Colonel Michael H. Boyce Department of Veterans Affairs Multi-Specialty Clinic.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 5362? So many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the gentleman from Illinois seek recognition.
I request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by device. This is a 15-minute vote.